Raise your right hand, face this gentleman here.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please have a seat.
Ms. Jamieson, I'm just going to ask you to lean into the microphone in your responses, if you would, okay? Go ahead.
Please state and spell both your first and last name.
Aspen Jamieson, Aspen Jamieson.
Mr. Avila? Miss Mariano, excuse me.
It can be confusing, Your Honor, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Jamieson, before we start, do you mind moving the mic just a little bit closer and pointing it down towards your face so that we can hear you? Ms. Jamieson, what do you do for a living?
I am an adult film star.
Just a little louder.
An adult film star.
Thank you. As part of your work, did you attend the XBiz award show on January 16th of 2020?
I did.
Is that something that you would normally intend as being a person in your industry?
Yes.
Who did you attend the award show with in 2020?
At the time, or that night, I went with my friend, and we basically got a room to get our hair and makeup done, and it was just me and her.
Do you know about what time you ended up going to the actual award show after getting your hair and makeup done with your friend?
Around like 6:30 p.m.
And where was the XBiz Awards?
It was at the JW Marriott in downtown LA.
Now, when you got to the award show, did you walk the red carpet?
I did.
And did you do that pretty quickly after you arrived at the XBiz Awards?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as People's 10A. Do you see that in the screen in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that familiar to you?
Yes.
Is that the red carpet as it appeared back on January of 2020 when you walked that particular carpet for the show?
Yes.
Now, when you were at the show, did you run into somebody by the name of Dr. Fernando Chavez?
Yes.
How do you know Mr. Chavez?
We are friends. I've met him a few years ago. Prior to that, always kind of in the adult field, I guess, at different places.
And what do you know his position to be in kind of the adult film industry?
Like a doctor for like sexual education and therapy.
Did you see him at the award show?
I did.
Where at the actual award show did you see Dr. Chavez?
He was standing in line waiting for the red carpet.
Was he alone?
No.
So can you tell us about what time you ran into Dr. Chavez on the red carpet?
It was probably around 7:30, 8 p.m.
And this was after you had kind of done your thing?
Right. So I finished red carpet. I had an early call time because they normally have the bigger stars go first to get it over with to make sure that they have all the press that they need.
You're one of the bigger stars?
Yes.
Okay. You said earlier in a question that I posed to you that he wasn't alone when you ran into him. Do you know who he was with?
He was with Amie.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as People's 10D. Do you recognize who's depicted in this photograph?
Yes.
And who is that?
Amie.
And is this the person that you saw Dr. Chavez with on the evening of the award show when you ran into him on the red carpet?
Yes.
Is that the first time you met Amie?
Yes.
So you have no prior interaction with Amie prior to this time?
Never.
Now, when you ran into Dr. Chavez, did he introduce you to his friend Amie?
Yes.
Did you come to find out what it was that she was doing there that evening?
I knew. He basically said she was a therapist as well, just like him, and they were going there to basically network.
Now, when you saw Dr. Fernando Chavez with Amie at the red carpet, did you actually stop and talk and hang out?
As soon as I finished, I was walking, I saw him, and he basically said, that I looked very nervous because I don't really like to talk in front of people. I don't like to do media stuff. So he asked if I wanted a drink.
Did he go and get that drink?
He did. He asked if I could stay with her and keep her company while he went to go get us drinks.
And about how far away would you say the area to get drinks was from the area in which you first ran into Dr. Chavez and Amie?
Maybe like 30, 40 feet.
Your Honor, may we approach
No.
the prior ruling from yesterday?
About how far away was the bar from the area in which you had stopped to speak to Dr. Chavez and to Amie?
About 30, 40 feet.
Now, you said that, if I'm recalling correctly, since we walked away, that Dr. Chavez went to actually go and get you a drink.
Yes.
Now, when you were standing there with Amie, did you guys engage in conversation?
Just very, very small talk.
Did anything significant happen as you were engaging in small talk with Amie on the red carpet?
While we were talking, a guy came up and basically said, "It's funny seeing you here."
Now, what was the tone of the person when they said, "It's funny seeing you here"?
Very angry.
Angry. Now, did you recognize that person?
No, I've never seen him before.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as people's 10C. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And how do you recognize this person?
Which
He was-
person are we talking about?
The person
In the
depicted
red.
10C?
Well, there's two.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The guy
person
in
in
the
the
red.
red, I'm sorry.
The guy in the red is the guy that came up to us.
And said, "Funny seeing you here."
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
With a yes,
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
Do you see that person in court?
Yes.
Could you please identify that person by telling us where that person is seated and what that person is wearing?
Blue collared shirt and glasses.
All right. Identifying the defendant.
Now, you said that this person came up and said, "Funny seeing you here." Did he bother to introduce himself to you?
No.
Would it be fair to say that he interrupted your conversation with Amie at
Yeah.
that point?
Objection deeding relevance.
As to your first objection, the court will sustain it. Your second objection is overruled. Go ahead.
When he came up to you, was it in the midst of you and Amie speaking?
Yes.
Was your conversation interrupted?
Yes.
Did he introduce himself at any point?
No.
Objection relevance.
Oh,
Did you find that rude?
Objection relevance.
sustained.
What was his tone?
Very angry.
Now, how long had you been standing with Amie, engaging in small talk, when the defendant walked up to the both of you?
It was very short. It was around 2 to 3 minutes.
When you saw the defendant approach you and Amie and heard the statement, "Funny seeing you here," did you get the impression that he knew her?
Yes.
In the 2 to 3 minutes that the defendant engaged in conversation with Amie, were you silent?
Yes.
So you weren't engaging in any conversation with them?
No.
Did it appear to you that the defendant was directing his statements directly at Amie during this time
Yes.
and nobody else?
No.
Were you able to hear what they were talking about?
A little bit, but it was basically like, "Funny seeing you here," basically called her a hypocrite and did not know why she was there. It kind of seemed like that she never approved of the adult industry or didn't know why. He didn't know why she was there, basically.
So initially you had said that when he walked up to Amie, the defendant, that he appeared angry.
There you go.
I'm sorry, you have to
Yes.
answer.
Sorry. Yes.
As this conversation continued for the 2 to 3 minutes, would you say his tone was still angry?
Yes.
You said he called her a hypocrite. Did he curse at her at any time during that 2 to 3 minutes?
Yes.
Could you describe any words or recall any curse words that he used at Amie during this time?
Something along the lines of, "You fucking ruined my life."
And could you tell me the volume at which he was speaking?
It was pretty loud, and everybody kind of started looking over, and she seemed embarrassed, so she tried to calm him down and kind of take the conversation elsewhere so people weren't staring at her.
How close were you standing to them?
Very close,
So it was loud enough for you to hear?
of course.
But you said you noticed, you were able to actually observe other people in that area looking at them?
Yes, we were in a line for the red carpet.
Now, you said that Amie was trying to calm him down. Can you explain to us what it is that you mean when you say Amie was actually trying to calm him down?
Objection, speculation.
Ooh.
I felt like she was embarrassed that everybody was staring, so she was just trying to calm him down to not be so loud, and that's when she kind of removed herself from the line to go and kind of be somewhere a little bit more private.
And just to be more specific, was she trying to calm him down with his words? With her words?
Yes.
Objection, speculation. As to
Oh,
what her intentions were.
well, she said it appeared. It didn't say that she was conclusively doing that. But it appeared to this witness that Ms. Harwick was trying to calm the individual down.
Now, I know you said that the defendant's voice was loud. Is that correct?
Yes.
How was Amy's voice in response to the defendant?
She seemed calm and was just trying to calm him down.
Did she yell at him?
No.
Did she curse at him?
No.
Did she call him any names?
No.
Now, you said that at some point she tried to remove herself from that area.
Yes.
When she tried to remove herself, what do you mean by that? Like walk away?
Yes, try to walk away.
Did the defendant follow her?
Yes.
So about after 2 or 3 minutes of the defendant cursing at her and calling her names, at that point you saw the victim move away from that location.
Yes.
Now, could you tell us where they went from that point?
Yes, it was not very far, but far enough that people weren't paying attention, and there was like a bathroom maybe 15, 20 feet away from the line.
Now, I want to, before we get to what they were doing when they had walked away, we'd established during testimony that the defendant was loud. Now, at any point during that 2 to 3 minutes before they walked away, did his volume increase at all?
Yes.
So, despite Amie consistently trying to calm him down, his volume increased.
Objection, restate the testimony.
Overruled. Go ahead and finish your question.
Objection, leading as well.
Well, I haven't heard the end of the question. Ask your question.
Sure. I actually had finished my question.
Well, despite that, what was... I didn't hear it all. Then. Let's see.
Sure.
Hold on.
I can repeat it, Your Honor.
Then I can read it. Okay, so despite Amie consistently trying to calm him down, his volume increased. That was your question?
Yeah. Did his volume increase?
Okay, overruled. You can answer that.
Yes.
Now, you said that other people were looking at them as this conversation was taking place. I know you said Amie appeared to try to calm the defendant down. Did she have any other sort of reaction to the defendant confronting her, aside from just trying to calm him down?
I felt like she seemed a little embarrassed, so she just kept trying to calm him down, but it seemed like he was getting more upset by the fact that she was trying to calm him down.
Objection, speculation.
Okay, that part of speculation, that last part will be stricken.
The embarrassed portion remains, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, who walked away first? Was it Amie and then the defendant followed, or was it kind of like a collective walking away?
I believe Amie tried walking away and he followed her.
Now, you stated that where they went to was about 15 feet away near the bathroom area. Is that right?
Yes.
Could you still see them from where you were standing near the red carpet?
Yes.
Could you hear them?
No.
Despite not being able to hear what they were saying, could you still tell what the defendant's demeanor was from that distance?
What the demeanor appeared to be.
Correct.
Okay.
It just seemed like they were arguing.
So I want to be more specific about the defendant. Could you see his body language from where you were?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Could you tell me what that body language was?
Just his arms were kind of like up and just very like furious with the situation.
So let the record reflect, Your Honor, that the witness raised both her left and right arms, moving around her hands in kind of a circular motion.
Right.
So you demonstrated kind of this movement I just described for the record. Would you say he was moving his arms erratically?
Objection, leading.
Yes.
Sustained. All right.
Could you describe what other body movements he was doing while he was speaking with Amie from that distance?
It just kind of seemed like his arms were like kind of going up very angrily and was just very upset.
Objection, false or speculation.
Overruled. This is what it appeared to her based on his body language.
Now, I know you had met Amie for the first time that night. Did that interaction between the defendant and Amie cause you any concern?
Objection, relevance.
It's foundational.
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. I know you just met Amie for the first time that night. But despite just meeting Amie for the very first time, did that interaction with the defendant and Amie cause you any concern at that time?
No.
Did you end up calling your friend Hernando at any point while you were with Amie?
Objection, leading.
Yes.
Yes? And why would you call Dr. Chavez while you were observing this interaction between the defendant and Amie?
Because he told me to stay with her while he went to go get us drinks. And then all of a sudden this happened, and I don't know. I felt bad for her because she was in a very awkward position, and it seemed like they might have just broken up, or definitely felt like it was an ex-boyfriend, but it seemed like it was something fresh and new. And I know that she walked away, so I knew that she was uncomfortable, so I was trying to call my friend back to help the situation. I didn't really know her.
And did you get in contact with Dr. Chavez only by cell phone? Only by phone call, or was it by text as well?
I believe I texted him because he didn't answer the phone.
And do you remember what you said to him in order to get him to come back?
I said, I think your friend needs you.
Based on that statement, did you feel that she needed help?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
If I was in that situation, I would want help.
And in your opinion, it appeared that they had just broken up.
Yes.
Now, did Hernando come back to the area where you were standing?
He did.
Did you tell him what you had observed between the defendant and Amie?
Yes.
Did you point out to him where they kind of walked off to?
Objection, leading.
Yes.
Overruled.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Now, once Dr. Chavez came back, what did you do at that point?
I left to go get my makeup retouched up before the award show started.
Did you see Dr. Chavez at all for the remainder of the night?
No.
Did you see Amie at all for the remainder of the night?
No.
And did you see the defendant at all for the remainder of the night?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Well, we got 4 minutes. You want to start?
I'd prefer to just start on the
Okay, let's go ahead and take a break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen. Let's
testified that you heard Mr. Pursehouse say, "You fucking ruined my life," to Ms. Harwick.
Yes.
It says something to the effect of.
Okay, well, she said yes, but was it something to the effect of those words?
Yes.
Okay.
Detective Carranza and Masterson interviewed you on the 28th of October in 2021. Do you remember that?
I don't recall the exact date, but
Do you
I was interviewed, yes.
And that was a recorded interview.
Yes.
In that interview, detectives asked you, what was the first thing you heard Mr. Pursehouse say? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you responded that you heard him say, "Funny seeing you here."
Yes.
And you mentioned to the detectives that you and one of the detectives had a phone call prior to that interview. Do you remember that?
They called me to set up an interview.
Well, in the interview, you specifically referenced this phone call that you had with a detective. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you brought it up and you told the detectives that in that phone call, the detective had asked you about hearing this specific phrase, ruining his life or something like that.
Yes.
And so in this phone call, the detectives told you, "Hey, Mr. Pursehouse said this phrase. Do you remember hearing it?"
Yes.
And you specifically told the detectives in your interview that you did not remember those exact words.
Is that correct?
Yes.
It was the detective who told you in the phone call that Mr. Pursehouse had said, "You ruined my life."
Objection to state's testimony.
That's cross-examination. Is it correct that the detective is the one that made that statement to you over the phone?
I believe so.
And you specifically told them in the interview that you hadn't heard those exact words, but that you had heard something along the lines of jealousy, that he was expressing jealousy. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That he was there shooting an adult film event, and he was upset that she was there, right?
Yes.
Because previously she had a problem with that industry.
It seemed like it.
And so now she's here, and so that was the reason that he was explaining to Ms. Harwick why he was upset.
Objection calling for speculation.
Sustained.
You don't have to.
Did you hear him make specific statements to the effect of, why are you here if you had such a problem with it?
Something on the lines.
On direct, you testified that Ms. Harwick tried to walk away and Mr. Pursehouse followed.
Yes.
And when you spoke to the detectives in the interview, in the recorded interview, isn't it true that you were not actually sure about that point? Whether he followed her?
I definitely knew that he followed her.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at the transcript of your interview?
Objection. She doesn't need her memory refreshed. Answer your question.
Yeah, she said she stated that you do remember that. Is that correct?
I remember her leaving and him following, and them going near the bathroom.
Looking at page 10, line 26 of the transcript, isn't it true that you said, and I quote, "I think they just, well, she walked away, and I think he followed. I'm not sure."
Objection is to improper impeachment.
No. Well, overruled.
Isn't it true that that is what you told the detectives during your interview on the 28th of October 2021?
I definitely saw them walk away, and they went near the bathroom.
Objection, non-responsive.
Well, that's her answer.
The question is, did you say to the detectives during your interview that she walked away and I think he followed, I'm not sure?
Objection, he just asked the same question.
Well, correct, and she's answered it.
Well,
That's the way she answered it. Are you disagreeing that you make that statement to the officers?
I'm sorry?
Do you disagree with what he just stated? Did you make that statement to the detectives that interviewed you? Repeat the statement.
and then I think they just, well, she walked away and I think he followed, I'm not sure.
I know for sure that he followed her.
Okay, so that's not inconsistent. You followed her.
The question relates to her statement to the detectives.
Right. So did you make that statement to the detectives that you followed her?
I thought I did.
Okay.
And my question only relates to not what your memory is today, but what you told the detectives when you were interviewed back in 2021.
But that is her memory today.
That's what she recalls telling me. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I understand the timeline. You are with Mr. Chavez and Ms. Harwick online to get to the red carpet, right?
In line, yes.
Oh, thank you. And the specific reason that the line exists is to take pictures on the red carpet, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Chavez leaves to get drinks, right?
Yes.
And how much time passes between Mr. Chavez leaving and Mr. Pursehouse approaching?
Within 3 minutes or so.
And then there's the 2 to 3 minute interaction between Mr. Pursehouse and Ms. Harwick.
Something like that. Me and her were just having very, very small talk. I just met her.
I
And he
mean,
came
once
up.
Mr. Pursehouse arrives, then the interaction between the two of them before they leave the line is about 2 to 3 minutes.
Very, very fast. A couple minutes.
And you hear some of the things that were said, but not everything.
Correct.
You were looking at your phone.
I was just in line. I wasn't necessarily looking at my phone. The only time I really looked at my phone was when I was trying to contact Hernando.
When Mr. Chavez does walk back up to the line, Ms. Harwick and Mr. Pursehouse weren't there anymore, right?
Correct.
They'd already left.
Yes.
And so the part of the conversation and the phrase that you have testified to that you heard, Mr. Chavez was not there when you heard that phrase.
He was not there when he heard the phrase.
You told Mr. Chavez the general area they had gone,
Yes.
and he stayed with you in line.
I already finished the red carpet, so I no longer needed to be in line. I was just standing there with her to keep her company while he went to go get us drinks.
Right, but I'm asking, when Mr. Chavez comes back and you tell him where Ms. Harwick and Mr. Pursehouse went,
Mm-hmm.
then Mr. Chavez stayed with you? And
No.
No. Specifically, when Mr. Chavez returned from the bar, you didn't run over towards him as he was coming to you, did you?
No.
At some point well after the XJay Award event, Mr. Chavez contacted you and informed you that Ms. Harwick had passed away.
Yes.
And he told you that you should contact the police.
He asked if I could.
He said it was important that you tell them what you heard.
Yes.
And you did contact the detectives.
Yes.
And you had that phone call that we talked about before.
Yes.
And in that phone call, the detectives asked you what you remembered and what you heard about what happened in the event.
I told them the gist of it.
The detectives told you that there was this phrase at issue, whether he said, "You ruined my life, bitch."
Sustained. Let's not go over that issue again, counsel. Let's move on.
To your knowledge, that phone call was not recorded.
To my knowledge, I don't remember.
Prior to your testimony today, the prosecution sent you, or the detective sent you, a transcript of your interview from 2021.
Yes.
And you recently spoke to DA, the district attorneys, about this case, right?
Yes.
And you spoke to them about what you remembered from that night.
Yes.
When was this conversation?
Today? Is that what you're asking?
No, prior to today's testimony. Did you have a conversation with Mr. Avila or Ms. Mariano or any of the detectives about your recollections and, what happened that night?
I just remember asking them, or they basically asked me to come to trial, but I don't remember really talking about everything except for when they initially recorded everything.
Nothing further.
Read right.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Jamieson, you were asked several questions by Mr. Franzel about this phone call you had with detectives prior to coming in for an interview. So just to be clear, you physically went to a police station and gave an interview, is that correct?
Yes, they came to Henderson, Nevada, where I was residing at the time, and I met with them at the local police station in Henderson.
But prior to physically meeting with law enforcement, you actually had a phone call with a detective, is that correct?
I think so.
Or somebody from a member of law enforcement?
Yes, to schedule up the interview.
And was that an interview or some sort of logistical phone call?
Logistics.
Was that to set up this meeting in Henderson to take a statement from you?
Yes, because I believe they were all in Los Angeles, and I told them that I was living in Henderson, so they said they would come up to me.
Would it be fair to say that your recollection of the night and what you told detectives is captured in your interview at the police station in Nevada?
Yes.
And prior to today, you had an opportunity to actually listen and watch that interview. Is that correct?
I listened to it. I didn't watch it.
I'm sorry. You actually listened to it, the
I
audio.
listened to it. Correct.
Now, when Mr. Franzel, that's defense counsel over here, asked you some questions, he asked you about this statement that you heard the defendant say something to the effect of, "You ruined my life." You recall that?
Yes.
We talked about it on direct examination as well.
Yes.
Now, I think the gist of the question, and you appeared confused, so I'm going to ask you again.
Objection, speculation.
Well, all right. That part would be stricken. You go ahead and ask her
Sure.
again.
Did you appear? Were you confused by Mr. Franzel's question when he asked you that?
Yes.
Okay. So, as a point of clarity, you appear confused by Mr. Franzel's question, so let me ask you in a different way. Was that statement fed to you by detectives?
No.
Do you independently recollect hearing the defendant say something to the effect of, "You ruined my life"?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
The phone call with the detective or law enforcement member that occurred prior to your interview in Henderson, it's your testimony today that phone call was purely logistical,
Yes.
and that there were no questions about what happened at the XJay Awards.
No.
Okay, I have in my hand what I'd like to mark as an SD. It's a CD, which is an excerpt of the interview with Ms. Jamieson. I'm showing counsel transcript.
I have the same objection as, if I may read the transcript for one moment, Your Honor.
Yes. Is this going to her statement regarding what she characterized as the logistical
Yes,
conversation?
definitely.
And may we approach?
All right, counsel.
Thank you. Prior to that little break we just took, you had just testified that the conversation you had with the detective before the interview was purely logistical.
Yes.
What do you mean by logistical?
Setting up where we're gonna meet, because I was in Henderson, they were in LA, and basically they were coming to Henderson, and they asked me to meet them at the local Henderson police station that was near my house.
Okay, and you didn't speak during that initial call. You didn't speak about the case at all, other than just setting up the meeting.
I honestly don't recall.
Okay. Now she says she does not recall, counsel. Why don't you approach, refresh her memory at this point? She says she doesn't recall, so that's different now.
Okay.
Do you have a transcript?
I have the actual interview that I'd like to play for her with headphones on.
Well,
Refresh her recollection.
show her the transcript
I will.
first. Yeah, show her the transcript.
Now she's saying she doesn't remember.
And I'm going to refresh her recollection. Would it refresh your recollection to listen to the interview?
You can do it either way.
I can read it.
Right. Oh, she said she can read it.
She can read it.
All right.
Question, okay, Your Honor, may I please cross-examine this witness?
You are.
I know the prosecution's playing an ample role here.
Well,
so
all right.
would it refresh-
He's free to recollect, have a witness's recollection refreshed by any means. And if you're going to play that excerpt, then go ahead.
All right.
Give her the transcript to follow along, if you would.
If I may just have a brief moment.
Yes.
Our next witness is Rebecca Gillock.
Okay.
May I place this here? All right. Let me get one more thing. And I'll play. Is the volume good?
It's not a long excerpt, so.
Did that refresh your recollection?
A little bit, but it was honestly a long time ago, so I don't really remember too much.
You still don't remember too much, you said?
I don't really remember that initial phone call.
Okay.
Having just listened to your own statements to the detectives about that phone call, does it refresh your recollection about what was said in that phone call?
It was
Because the entire
Hold
phone
on.
call?
Well, based on what he played to her.
Based on what I played.
But it's just what he played to her. And you-
what you played, that was me in Henderson talking. That wasn't the initial phone call, so I don't
Right.
really remember the phone call.
So that was not the initial phone call you received?
No, that what he played for me, that's me in Henderson at the police department.
Okay.
Okay, so when you were being interviewed by the detectives, you told the detectives, hey, that phone call that we had, in that phone call you asked me if he said you ruined my life, bitch.
Objection asked me.
Well, no,
This is
it's,
the fifth time that Mr. Renzel
I
said
understand.
that.
He's setting a foundation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is what counsel stated correct? Repeat it if you would.
In the October interview with the detectives in Henderson, you told them, hey, when you called me and we had a phone call, you asked me, did Mr. Pursehouse say you ruined my life, bitch? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you told the detectives that you don't remember those exact words.
It was something on the lines of, you ruined my life, bitch. It might have not been those exact words, but he was just mad at her because he was basically calling her a hypocrite why she was there when he didn't really accept that, or when she didn't really accept
So you're
that.
saying something along the lines of, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And all I'm asking about is what you said in that interview to the detectives.
Right, but she says she can't recall. It was something along the lines of what you stated.
I know, but
Your Honor, Mr. Renzel is
Let-
asking the same question.
I understand.
And he's getting the same answer.
Yes,
But
and-
just
and-
because he doesn't like the answer doesn't
Counsel,
mean
no
he gets
speaking
to
objections. No, I don't want to hear any editorial with respect to that. Okay, that's it. She stated something along the lines of what you stated to her, and it remains, and the record remains as such. All right?
thank you. Nothing further.
Anything?
Do you, as you sit here today and testify, independently recall the defendant saying something along those lines of "you ruined my life" to Amie Harwick at the XJay Awards?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything based on that question?
No.
Okay, ma'am, you may step down. Thank you very much.
Can she be subject to recall?
Yes, make it available if you would.
Well, she's out of state.
Yes, it's up to.
Okay, so
they would
if
have-
you, yeah, if you want.
we can make it available, but they would have to they have to take care of the logistics. That's fine.
Okay, fine. Make her available, and they'll take care of the logistics if they need it. All right. Next witness, if you would.
The people call Miss Gillot, Rebecca Gillot.
Okay.